The Chronicle deck Spirit Charmers All Foil Edition. A brand new 51 card all foil deck directly from the Chronicles themselves. Massive shout out to Konami for allowing me to open these up early for you all to see. I can't wait what we have in store. What's up YouTube, Del here from Zephyr, and as the introduction has already shown, I've not been given just one but three of the Chronicles deck Spirit Charmers to open up early for you all to see. Not only that, but I will also be bringing you a deck profile utilizing only three of the Spirit Charmer decks. So that means that you're going to be able to get a full-on video of everything you can do with this tidy product right here. So we're going to crack into this, and as already mentioned, you get 50 ultra rare cards and then one promo card that can be either a secret rare or a starlight rare as well. So just going to put it down like that so I don't see the promo. So you get a playmat, you get the sealed deck, and then you'll get the promo card. So I'm just going to put the promo card to one side because we'll save that for the deck profile. So right at the start, I'll show you all three of the promos. And then we're going to open up this amazing mat. Now this mat you can actually get in a rubberized form, and you can get this at your local environment that are doing the special Chronicles deck Spirit Charmers All Foil Edition, and you'll be able to pick one of these up in a rubberized form. And I absolutely love the artwork of the connecting alternative artworks for all of the Charmers. So we'll use this as our backdrop for this particular video as well. I think that's kind of nice to have everything inclusive. I think it looks really, really nice. I would love to have this as a playmat as well. Really do like the Charmers. Like, I'm a massive Spellcaster fan in general, and then be able to see like the Familiar Possessed, the Spirit Charmers and everything else come to life a little bit more direct from the anime is always going to be exciting. So we're going to crack into this one, show you what is in the decks. Like the Chronicle decks Fallen and the Virtuous, I specifically tried to stay away from the exact deck list. So I don't know exactly what's in here. I just know that there are certain cards that you would expect to lead to one another. So it's going to be very interesting to see. So we're going to start off with Area the Water Charmer. So this is one of the alternative artworks. So this is one of the 6 cards that can be upgraded to a secret rare or a starlight rare, which would be really, really nice. So we've got the one Area the Water Charmer. You've got the one Heater the Fire Charmer. We've got the one Win the Wind Charmer, and then we've got the one Asua the Earth Charmer as well. So we've got all 4 of these, which is really kind of cool. And now we're going to show you how they all upgrade in the deck, which is really nice because you then get the Familiar Possessed area, you get the Familiar Possessed Heater, Familiar Possessed Win, and Familiar Possessed Asua. Now, what I really love about the Charm is that they have this really unique ability. Now, what I mean by that is, with the Familiar Possessed, and later on you'll also see they have a secondary card that can do the exact same thing, is that you can special summon these cards directly from the deck. Now, what makes this a little bit different is it's a card that is a summoning mechanic. It's not ashable. It's not like you're triggering an effect because you're triggering the effect in the deck. And it's not like a trigger, it's just like, I have the materials on the field, and quite like you would perform an XZ summon, or a Synchro summon, or a Link summon, or even a Fusion summon, you're just going to be able to go, well, let's say a Fusion summon unless it's a Contact Fuse, you're just going to be able to go, cool, I've got the materials on the field, they go to the grave or whatever you need to, and then this card comes from the deck. So what I mean by that is you get special on this card from the hand or deck by sending one face-up Heater the Fire Charmer and a face-up Fire Monster you control to the grave. They all then have their on special summon effects, and those on special summon effects will give you different capabilities. So for example, Heater will do piercing battle damage as well as all of the other ones, but then when you look at the Familiar Possessed ones that can have the exact same effect, they'll do something a little bit different that I'll talk about in a bit. So I can see our Charmers have upgraded to their Familiar Possesseds. And then on top of that, once they've got their Familiar Possesseds, they'll work themselves into their Channeler versions. So we've got Area, Heater, Win, and Asua. So all of these have their Familiar Possesseds. Now the Familiar Possessed are all going to be different types because the monsters themselves are spellcasters. So for Area, they have a Reptile in the form of the Gigabyte. For Heater, they have a Pyro in the form of Inari Fire. For Win, they have a Dragon in the Ran Ryu. And for Asua, they have a beast in the form of the Notorious Archfiend. Now, all of these have the exact same effect, that they can special summon themselves down if you control a spellcaster monster, which is really nice, because then it means that technically any of the Charmers, Channelers, or even familiar possessed forms can then just have access to any of the familiar possessed monsters. In an ideal scenario, you always want Asura to have the Nefarious Archfiend, your Win to always have Ram Ryu, and so on and so forth, but the fact that it has flexibility amongst the rest of them is really kind of cool. Now, quite like how the Charmers upgraded, so can the familiar possesseds. So, the familiars in the form of Gigabyte will go to the Awakening of Possessed Gargigo Bite. Then you've got the Awakening of Possessed Greater Inari Fire. You've got Awakening of Possessed Rasen Ryu. And then you've got the Awakening of Possessed Nefarious Archfiend. Now, these share the exact same effects as the familiar possessed versions of the Charmers. Now, what these do is, again, they can special summon themselves directly from the deck by sending a face-up spellcaster and a face-up level 4 or lower water, fire, wind, or earth. These all have their own individual effects as well when they are special summoned. So when this card is special summoned, you get to send a random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard. This one then allows you to inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original attack of one monster that they control. This one lets you target a card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. Well, it doesn't even target, you just return one card on the field to the hand. And then this one lets you special summon back a level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard, but you negate its effects. They all have the exact same effects if they are sent to the graveyard, which is really important because once you perform a link summon, you then get a search effect. They will all search out their corresponding attribute spirit arts. So this can search out spiritual water art, spiritual fire art, wind art, and earth art. Then on top of that one as well, they can then all search out a possessed spell or trap. So they've just got you so much searchability with this deck. It's really, really good. Then for our reprints, we have Lord of the Heavenly Prison, backed up by Imseti, Glory of Horus, Blessing of Horus, Happy, Guidance of Horus, and then Protection of Horus as well. So you get the entire Horus package. Now, I knew the Horus package was in here. That was kind of like something to know of. But like what I love about the Horus package is the fact that it's so good. It can provide it as a defensive option because they are just high level and high attack stat and defense stat monsters. They also have their own inbuilt effects. Plus, they can lead you into some rank 8 plays as well, which we'll see once we get to the extra deck of this. We then have Fairy Tail Luna. So when it is specifically normal summoned, you get to add a spellcaster with 1850 attack from the deck to the hand. That's going to be able to search you out pretty much all of your Charmer versions, bar the original, which is your original Earth Charmer. But it can search out your Familiar Possessed, or it can search out your Channelers, as they both have 1850 attack. Then we have Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, which is really important because the brand new card for the Charmers themselves is a Spellbook card, which just gets you so much advantage, and we'll see that in a bit. Speaking of, here is Spellbook of the Grand Circle. So you add 4 Charmer monsters with different attributes from the deck, grave, and or banishment back to the hand. Then shuffle 2 cards from your hand into the deck. Now what makes this so good is that if you already have your Charmers in the hand, you can use the effect of King Sarcophagus, for example, to discard them to the graveyard to then send a Horus monster from the deck to the grave. You set all of that up, and then you activate your Spellbook of the Grand Circle to then add them all back to the hand. So you've just had free resource, which is absolutely insane. On top of that, you get to banish this card from the graveyard to fusion summon a fusion monster from the extra deck using Charmer or Familiar Possessed monsters from your hand or field. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a monster is fusion summoned this way, which is really important because it means that your brand new fusion monster is going to be able to resolve uninterrupted. Then we have Spirit Charmers. Discard 1 card to take 2 cards from your deck with different names from each other that are Charmer monsters, Familiar Possessed monsters, and or possessed spell or traps. Add one of them to the hand and then set the other. Then we have the Grand Spiritual Art Ichinari. They've got Awakening Possessed, like the artwork on some of these like monsters and spells and traps is just absolutely amazing. Spellbook of Secrets, add a Spellbook card from the deck to the hand. Well, I guess you're going to want to get hold of your brand new Spellbook Grand Circle. Then we have Spellbook of Knowledge. Send to the graveyard either 1 spellcaster monster you control or 1 other Spellbook card from the hand or face-up field to the graveyard to draw 2 cards. Then we have Magicalized Fusion. So this can also help you get into your brand new fusion monster because you just get to fusion summon a spellcaster monster from your extra deck by banishing materials from the field and or grave. Then we have Dark Ruler no more because stopping treacherous fields being built is very, very important, and then your Charmers can pick them apart bit by bit. Soul and Luna, target 2 monsters on the field, 1 monster you control and 1 your opponent controls, change their battle position. So if they're face down, flip them face up. If they're face up, flip them face down. King Sarcophagus, the missing piece for the Horus kind of section. Possessed Partnership, so these are kind of like your Control S cards. So this lets you special summon a monster with 1500 defense from your hand or grave and attack, or face down defense. Then if you control a monster with 2 or more different attributes, you get to destroy 1 face up card on the field. Banish this card from the graveyard, target a possessed continuous spell or trap in the grave, and place it face up on the field. So this is going to how you can recycle some of your continuous spell cards. It's also ways of being able to, once you utilize your different attributes of having water, fire, wind, and earth, you can really start disrupting your opponent. Unpossessed, charm monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle, which is really important because there is, with, I believe, wherever it may be, Awakening the Possessed, one of them, yeah, there you go, Charmers and familiar possessed monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. So when you're able to combo these two together, they can't be destroyed by battle and card effects. It makes them very, very tricky to get past. Angel Statue Azaldun, nice upgrade on this one. And then we have the brand new fusion monster, Charmers of the Grand Circle. Now, I'm just going to try and bring this a little bit closer to the camera so you can see. I love the artwork on this one because it looks like it's a hand-drawn sketch. It looks like an original concept idea, which I think looks absolutely amazing because it looks like something on the parchment you would see. If you're watching the anime right now, it just looks so clean. It looks really, really nice. It looks really, really original. And I just think it looks quite unique for this deck. So absolutely love this. And speaking of unique, its effect, it requires 2 or more Charmers or familiar possessed monsters. And if it is fusion summoned, you get to activate this effect for each different original attribute used for its fusion summon, maximum 4. So keep in mind, yes, of course you can use Light and Darks, but if you used all 4 Charmers, that's 4 different attributes, you can then trigger the following effects. So you can activate this effect for each different original attribute. You can apply 1 effect from this list. You can choose the same effect more than once, resolve each effect before choosing another. You can only use this effect once per turn. So you can either, this card gains 800 attacks, you could do that 1 or 4 times, or none if you wanted to. You can add a possessed spell or trap from the deck to the hand. You can return 1 card on the field to the hand, and you can special summon a spellcaster monster from the graveyard. So this can also let you recycle the materials you've just used, so you can flood the field. You can clear the field by returning cards on the field back to the hand, or you can just make this a fat stack power boss house, especially when you back this up with your 2 possessed cards, Unpossessed and Awakening the Possessed, being able to make sure that this can't be destroyed by battle or card effect, and being as strong of an additional 3,200 attack stats, puts it up to 5,050 attack. And it's just there going, okay, try and get rid of me. So really, really cool card. Then we've got Iria the Water Charmer. So we've got the linked versions of all of the Charmer monsters. So Heater, Win, and Asura. And what I love, even with a good old quintet, so if you want to use your Magical Ice Fusion on this instead of the Charmer, this can become a bit of a powerhouse. What I love about these Chronicle decks right now is that they're giving you like full extra decks as well. So you're getting everything you need to. Even the Legendary 5Ds deck gave you everything you needed per deck. So you are pretty stacked. Zombie Vampire for your Horus monsters. Silo Hat Rabbit, that's where your Angel Statue Azarun comes into play. Selene, Queen of the Master of Magicians. So you're going to have plenty of spell cards floating around, plus plenty of spellcasters and monsters to revive. And then what you can do is you get to upgrade into something like an access code talker, which will be your game ender. Because what this will do is when you're using so many different link monsters and different attributes as you're building into this, it will already have a guaranteed 3,000 attack stat buff if you've gone through the Selene. It will have a light attribute in the graveyard. And then if you've used any of your Charmer monsters or multiple Charmer monsters either the same turn or previously, you will have a wind, fire, water, and possibly earth in the graveyard that you can also use to banish and then destroy it without response one of your opponent's cards. So again, Dark Royal no more, make access code talker, clear the field, and then off you go. So that's it for the entire contents of these structure decks. Now what I'm going to do using 3 of these is I'm going to merge them all together, and I'm going to bring you a profile so you can see exactly what a profile will look like utilizing 3 of these amazing decks. So with a bit of spirit magic, we will be back in a second. Here is the profile. So you've got your main deck, you've got your extra deck, we've even got our added promos, and a side deck as well. So you're going to have everything you need from 3 of the Chronicle decks, Spirit Charmers, all foil edition, to put together. So before we dive into the profile, let's have a look at our free secret rare promos. So we're starting off with, so remember this is 1 of 6, which are the alternative artworks for the Charmers themselves, plus the brand new spellbook and fusion monster. Starting with, boom, a secret rare upgrade of Heater the Fire Charmer. Wow, this looks really nice as a secret rare. Very, very shiny, very, very clean. Oh, I so hope if I've ended up getting 3 out of the 4, that's going to be painful. Okay, our second one will be, boom, Asua, the Earth Charmer. Again, as a secret rare, looks really, really clean, really, really nice. Can we get 3 from 3? So our final upgraded secret rare will be, or maybe a Starlight rare, will be, boom, Spellbook of the Grand Circle. I actually don't mind this. I actually think that the Spellbook card is such a great addition for the deck, and then comboed off with the Fusion Monster is actually really, really nice. But to get this as a secret rare upgrade, that's quite nice as well. It does mean that I've got 2 out of the 4. I'm going to need to get Win and Area as well. Okay, so that's our promos done and dusted. Let's dive headfirst into this profile and show you exactly what build you'll be looking for with the Chronicle deck Spirit Charmers All 4 Edition. So we're starting off with Area the Water Charmer and the Familiar Possessed in Gigabyte. We've then got Heater and their Familiar Possessed in Anari. Then we have Win, their Familiar Possessed and Ranryu. And then Asua and the Familiar Possessed in Nefarious Archfiend. Now you see we've gone with a bit of a theme here. What I like about this is the fact that technically Gigabyte, Ranryu, Inari and the Archfiend are all extenders. So remember that these are only if you control a spellcaster monster. So we are going to be using the Horus package inside the deck. On top of that, we also use the Spellbook and we use Fairy Tale Luna, all of them being spellcasters. So once you've done the effects of either your Spellbook, once you've done the effect of the Luna, or if you just open up Area, Win, Heater or Asua, you can just summon down your any of your Familiar Possess or like your familiars, and then you get to perform a link summon. So that can then be quite helpful for you, or you're getting 2 monsters with different attributes on the field, which can also be very, very helpful for you with your Charmer Possessed trap cards, because if you control 2 different attributes, you can destroy a card on the field. So there's loads more you can work with on that one, which is why I quite like playing the Familiar Possessed, but you don't have to. It's entirely subjective on this one. I just like the idea. I like completing the family, which is why I also play 2 of the Awakening of Possessed, being 1 of the Rasen Ryu and 1 of the Nefarious Archfiend. Now the reason I decided to go with these 2 in the main deck, we do play 1 more in the side deck, I'll show you a little bit later on, but the idea is that these are quite disruptive. Now if you wanted to kind of narrow the deck down a little bit more, as this is a 42 card build, you could actually side out the Awakening of Possessed, the Rasen Ryu, because this is more particular for going second, because it lets you return a card your opponent controls to the hand. Whereas the Archfiend is the one that's the most balanced, because this is the one that allows you to summon back 1 monster from the graveyard. And what you're trying to do when you're getting these out from the deck to the field is you're then trying to get them to be used as their send effects to add your possessed spell or trap from the deck to the hand. So that's how you can just add up another different level, depending on what you're trying to aim and what you're trying to get for. But like I said, if you wanted to cut the deck back down to 40, you can take out your Awakening the Possessed. This one specifically requires a level 4 or lower wind, which your 2 targets will be your Ranryu or your Win, the Wind Charmer. So they can get a little bit specific in those kind of scenarios, but it does give you a different option and a bit more of a stronger monster should you want to go for it. So like I said, you can cut it down to this one if you wanted to, entirely up to you. So moving on to the Charmer-esque cards. So when I talk about the Charmer-esque cards, I mean like their spells and traps, and then I'll talk about all the supporting engines. So for the spells, we are playing 3 Awakening of the Possessed. Now the reason that this card is so good for the deck is that monsters you control, all monsters, gain 300 attack for each different attribute you control. Charmer and Familiar Possessed monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effect. And then if a spellcaster monsters with 1,850 original attack is normal or specialed to your field, draw 1 card. Now, in this particular version, because we're not playing the Familiar Possessed Charmer monsters, the monster that you're going to be able to use to trigger off that effect as a bit of a jump forward preview will be your Fairy Tale Luna. Now, the big thing about the Fairy Tale Luna is it can actually search itself out. So if you wanted to play the Familiar Possessed monsters, you can do. And if you wanted to play specifically the level 5s, which just let you search out a particular piece you might be missing, you can do. We're only really going to be looking at playing like 1 or 2 of those, depending on what you want to use. But you do have ways to search it out should you want to. Moving on to the next one, we do play 3 Spirit Charmers. So you discard a card to take 2 cards from your deck with different names from each other that are Charmer monsters, familiar possessed monsters, and or possessed spells and traps. Add one to the hand and then set the other. Now, this is really important for your consistency because this can either get you the monster you might be missing, but it can also then get you direct access to your possessed spell or traps. And mainly we're looking at unpossessed and possessed partnerships, which we'll talk about in a second. The final spell card for the Charmer-esque side is the field spell in the Grand Spiritual Art. So you negate your opponent's first monster effect. It's mandatory, so no matter what they do, you don't get a choice in the matter, it will negate it. But it then does mean that your opponent has to try and bait it out first before they can do anything meaningful. When you control a spellcaster monster with 1500 defense specifically, and then during your main phase you get to reveal a spellcaster monster from the hand to add a monster with the same attribute, but with 1500 attack and 200 defense, so that's all the familiar possessed, from the deck to the hand. And if you do, you shuffle the revealed card back into the deck, which is absolutely fine because getting your Charmer monsters back into the deck means you get more advantage off of the Grand Spellbook. Then for the trap cards, we're on 2 possessed partnerships and 1 unpossessed. Now you can play 3 possessed partnerships if you wish to, but the idea behind this one is that your possessed partnership lets you special on a spellcaster monster with 1500 defense, being your Charmers. So again, you're getting a bit more advantage off the back of those. And then if you control 2 monsters with different attributes, you get to destroy a face-up card on the field. You get to banish this card from the grave to target a possessed continuous spell trap in your graveyard and place it face up on the field. So again, you can get access to your unpossessed, and then it's kind of coming down to what other possessed cards you can go for, being Awakening of the Possessed, and that's just going to give you a bit more draw power, a bit more attack stats, and everything else in between. So now the bridge over into our first supporting engine is going to be our spellbook of the Grand Circle. So this one, as already mentioned during the reveal of the profile, the reveal of the decks, you get to add 4 Charmer monsters with different attributes from the deck, grave, and or banishment. So apart from being banished face down, there's like nowhere you can't gain access for these particular cards. Now, it is specifically 4, so it lets you add from the deck, grave, and or banishment, which is why you want to get them back to the deck if they're stuck in your hand. In doing so, you shuffle 2 cards from the hand back into the deck. You banish this card from the graveyard to fusion summon a fusion monster from the extra deck using Charmer or familiar possessed monsters from the hand or field. Also, your opponent cannot activate card or effect when a monster is fusion summoned this way, which means your fusion monster is protected, which is actually really, really important. Speaking of the spellbooks, we do get to play 2 Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. So as previously mentioned, you don't really want to normal summon any of your Charmer monsters. You kind of want them to be back in the deck, search them off, and then go again. The idea behind that one is it means that you can use your normal summon on something like the Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, which is still a spellcaster monster, and the benefit that this is going to have over the Fairy Tale Luna is not only can it search out the Spellbook of Grand Circle, but it can also search you out your Spellbook of Secrets or your Spellbook of Knowledge. So your Spellbook of Secrets, you would mainly get to then deck thin 1 more if you wanted to, but also you can just go straight for your Spellbook of Knowledge, and if you needed to, use this to tribute off or send your Spellbook Magician of Prophecy from the field to the grave and draw 2 new cards, which could then lead you into something else to help you extend your plays. On top of that, remember that this is a water spellcaster monster, so it does mean that if you open up a familiar possessed monster, you will have the ability to special summon them down, because remember, as long as you control a spellcaster monster, you get to special summon it from the hand. So that's how you can get 2 monsters from the field, and if you're like, okay, cool, I just want a link monster to then work my way into Selim, you can get a Spellbook of Grand Circle off of your Magician of Prophecy, search the 4 materials that you need, and if you do have the ability to go into something like a Horus package, you can just dig a little bit more. Then we are playing 3 Fairy Tale Luna. Now, the Fairy Tale Luna has some very specific targets in this one. So it can search itself out, which is great. But then if you start to look at the rest of the deck and what other targets you could work your way into, as already mentioned, you can go straight for a Channeler, which can be quite useful for you. You just need to decide which attribute you want to work for. The other one you can go for is your Familiar Possessed. Now remember, your Familiar Possessed, you kind of want to just summon from the deck via its own summoning mechanic, so you don't really want to be searching that card out. You do want to try and search out one of your particular Charmers, your Channelers, sorry. So with these ones, they're always treated as a Charmer card. You get to discard it and then one other corresponding attribute. So if you've got Area, it's Water. If you've got Wind, it's Wind. If you've got Heater, it's Fire. To then add a Fire monster from the deck to the hand. So this kind of gives you the ability to search out the Familiar Possessed, but because we're not leaning into some of the bigger Possessed as much, you don't really need to rely on it. That being said, Luna would just search out another copy of itself, and it means you have a constant loop of being able to go, cool, normal summon Luna, search out another Luna. And what makes Luna so good and disruptive is it has a quick effect to target a face-up monster your opponent controls. Your opponent can send one card with that monster's name from the deck or extra deck to the graveyard to negate its effect. Otherwise, you return both to the hand. So it lets you re-loop back your Fairy Tail Luna. And again, remember, Luna is a spellcaster monster. So if you were to normal summon down the Luna and then you needed your opponent to send another card from deck to grave to negate its effect, you've kind of taken away a bit of an interaction, and then that means that they prioritize that monster that they have sent. Also, the benefit of that one is, if it's only a monster that is either limited or a monster they only play one copy of, they can't negate it. So you then get to return the Luna to the hand, you've cleared off a disruptive monster that your opponent may have on the field, and then you get to move forward in your plays. Then for the Horus package, we are playing 3 Imseti, and 1 Blessing and 1 Guidance. Now you can play Protection if you want to. What I like about kind of trying to keep this a bit minimal is that you've got your Imseti effect, which discards itself plus 1 other card to add King Sarcophagus and draw a card. In doing so, once you've got your King Sarcophagus, you would ideally discard 2 more cards to then be able to send Blessing and Happy from the deck to the graveyard. You can then summon all 3 of these back. What's quite nice is that you can leave one of these monsters on the field, ideally your Imseti, because your Imseti is the only one that is a spellcaster and it is a different attribute. So it means that you can overlay your Blessing and your Guidance to then go into something like your Vampire. Your Zombie Vampire will then mill the 4 cards from your deck and your opponent's deck, and then you get to summon back one of the monsters, straight away setting you up for some more link plays, while also maintaining that spellcaster and the hidden effects that a lot of people forget about, that this one lets you, if another card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect while this card is in the monster zone, etc. in damage step, you get to non-target send a card on the field to the graveyard. Happy and Blessing also have hidden effects. So Blessing, if another card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect while this card is in the monster zone, etc. in a damage step, you get to draw cards equal to the number of monsters with different names in your main monster zone, which is very easily done when you can flood the field with your monsters. And then Guidance has the exact same kind of esque effect, that if another card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, while this card is in the monster zone, you get to target 2 cards that are banished or in the graveyard, and either add both to the hand or shuffle both into the deck. So you can recycle any of your cards from the graveyard, which is insane. Or even banishment when you're banishing the Grand Circle. Then you play 3 King Sarcophagus, because hard opening up the King Sarcophagus is not the end of the world. As already mentioned with the Grand Circle, you're being able to add 4 Charmers. Yes, of course, you can fusion with them, but you can very easily just go, okay, cool, once I've resolved that effect, if I wanted to, I only need to use a minimum of 2 Charmers. I can discard 2 more to get 2 of my King Sarcophagus monsters, being Imseti, Happy, or Blessing, from the deck to the grave, and then go into the Zombie Vampire, or just summon them back as level 8 beaters. The final 2 cards that we are playing in the main deck is the 1 Magicalized Fusion and the 1 Angel Statue Azaroon. You could again side out the Angel Statue Azaroon, as it is probably ideally more for going first than going second, because it is a continuous trap card. It's one of the cards that's going to need a bit of a setup. But remember, with the Scylla Hat Rabbit from the extra deck, you can get very easy access to this card directly from the deck just by link summoning out that Scylla Hat Rabbit. So you've got a bit more flexibility. The Magicalized Fusion is a little bit harder to come by, and if you wanted to max out on it, you could do. Or if you're like, you know what, I don't want to rely on Magicalized Fusion at all, of course you can take this out. But what I like about this is it works me into the Charmer monster, but it can also work me into the Quintet as well. And both of those being serving different purposes can be very, very useful for you. So that's it for the entire main deck. A little bit of flexibility depending on what you want to try and achieve, and depending on how many of the familiar possessed, charmers, and the familiar monsters themselves you actually want to play, but you have a lot of flexibility depending on your particular playstyle. Moving on to the extra deck, I've decided to go for 3 Charmers of the Grand Circle. I really, really like this card. The fact that I can fusion summon it using the Grand Circle spellbook, but also being able to use Magicalized Fusion, just means it's very, very consistent. If anything, you could afford to play 2 of this and then play a Scylla Hat Rabbit as a second copy. That would probably come more side down to your side deck when you can utilize more copies of the Angel Statue Azaroon. But what makes this card so incredibly good, I'm just going to repeat myself if you didn't watch the original opening of the deck, but the idea is that this requires 2 or more Charmers or familiar possessed monsters. If it is fusion summoned, you get to activate this effect. For each different original attribute used for its fusion summon, maximum 4, you get to apply one of the following effects. You can apply 1 effect from the list. You can choose the same effect more than once. Resolve each effect before choosing again. So you can either get this card to gain 800 attack, or you can do that 4 times, because if you use all 4 charmers, you can do that 4 times. Or add a possessed spell or trap from the deck to the hand, so again, technically add up to 4, which is crazy. Or return 1 card in the field to the hand, again, resolve that 4 times if you wanted to. Or finally, special summon a spellcaster monster from your graveyard. Now the fact it doesn't limit you to either attack stats, defense stats, level, or anything else, you could even bring back an Imseti, which is pretty crazy. You can only use each effect once per turn, which means if you summon out a second copy during the same turn, you won't be able to repeat all of that again. But the idea is that once you've got one, you can either make it a very strong monster, or you just use it as a light target, so you've got a light monster on the field backed up by the rest. Then for the link monsters, we've got the 1 Asua, the 1 Win, the 1 Heater, and of course the 1 Area, just being able to get you that ability to search out your charmer monsters should you really need to, or even your familiar possess sometimes. But the idea is you've just got different attribute link monsters that you can work your way up into cards like Selene. The final link monster we have here is the Silo Hat Rabbit, before we move into our link freeze, being 2 Selene and 2 access code. This just gives you your aggressive options. Now what I mean by that is you could technically go second, make your first access code, and if that's not enough to complete the game off, you can then work your way into a second one during the next turn. More times than not, when you make access code, it does end in game, unless you do play Dark Rule No More, which we do in the side deck. So once you resolve Dark Rule No More, one of the best ways to clear your opponent's field off would be to go through Selene into access code. In doing so, access code can then clear your opponent's field. You won't be able to do any damage that turn, but then once it comes back to you, you could technically work your way into a second access code should you need to, and then do the exact same thing again while pushing for game. The final cards we play is the 1 Quintet Magician. This is just an absolute powerhouse of a fusion monster that requires 5 spellcaster monsters. So the best way to make this, and the only way to make this, is with Magicalized Fusion. It must be fusion summoned, and if it is fusion summoned using 5 spellcasters with different names, you get to destroy all cards your opponent controls. This face-up card on the field cannot be attributed nor used as fusion material, and it cannot be destroyed by card effects. Then the final 2 cards you play is 2 Zombie Vampire. These are just giving you the ability to mill the top 4 cards of your deck and your opponent's deck, get another monster from the graveyard back to the field, and then have that ability to kind of work your way into different link monsters depending on what you want to try and achieve, but also being able to dig through the deck to either get you into something like a Horus monster, or work your way into either a Charmer, Familiar Possessed, you name it. You get to work into those particular cards and then build on from there. Now, for the side deck, you're going to be able to utilize 3 Lord of the Heavenly Prison. The idea behind this one is to be able to protect your face-down spells and traps, so that once you side in to be a bit more control-oriented, you have a way to protect, as well as also a way to get a stronger monster to the field of play, a different attribute, and have the ability to set pretty much any card that you want, or technically any spell or trap, directly from the deck. Following this up, we do play the 3rd Awakening of the Possessed, being the Gaga Gigabite. The idea behind this one is that this is more ideal for going first, as it lets you send a random card from your opponent's hand to their graveyard, and then both players draw a card. So the idea is you get to take away possibly one of the core pieces. You'll both still draw a card, but you'll be able to replenish a card, whereas they will just be replacing a card. It can be quite useful for you. It's one of them ones that is an optional choice if you wanted to utilize it, but it's just something to kind of give you a different option. Then for the spell cards, I've got 3 Sol and Luna, just to give you a bit more disruption. You can move this into the main deck as well, alongside Dark Ruler No More. This is just mainly that if you do go second and you know your opponent's field is going to be a bit formidable to try and pick apart, you can go Dark Ruler No More and then work your way into an access code and then pick everything apart to then hopefully finish the game off the next turn. Then we've got 2 Grand Spiritual Art Ichirin. The idea behind this one is it gives you that ability to kind of increase the consistency to be able to negate the first monster effect your opponent wants to activate, but then it also gives you the ability to kind of reveal a spellcaster being your Charmer, put it back into the deck. So it increases the consistency of it, but you can adapt this to pretty much whatever you want. You could even play a second Silo Hat Rabbit, and the reason for that one is that you want to max out on your Angel Statue Azaroon when you know you're going first. So whether your opponent might stop you getting into your Silo Hat Rabbit, but also the ability to go into the Azaroons, not being a hard once per turn, can be quite effective for you. So opening up multiple will not be the end of the world. And it's just something you want to solidify when you know you are going to be going first. The final card is the 3rd Possessed Partnership. Now this can very easily be unpossessed if you'd rather have this in the main deck. It gives you a bit more flexibility to adapt it. And as already mentioned, you can play different familiar possessed in the main deck to give you a couple of different options. So that's it for the entire main deck, extra deck, and side deck. Hopefully this has given you a couple of ideas on how to play the Charmers as well, what you can do with just getting free of the brand new Chronicle deck Spirit Charmers all foil edition. Being able to get access to a 51 all foil deck is absolutely amazing, including that promo, which can be upgraded into a Starlight Rare, and then 2 brand new cards for the Charmer archetype as well is very, very important. So being these 2 cards right here. I think they're great additions to the deck. I absolutely love what the deck tries to do. I love the alternative artworks for all of the Charmers as well. I think they're absolutely beautiful additions to the deck itself. And I can't wait to see what else we have in store for Charmers in the upcoming year of 2026. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. The Charmer decks will be available as of the 22nd of January, so make sure you mark that date for you looking to pick this product up. For now, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling. The Chronicles deck, Spirit Charmers All Foil Edition, will be available at local stores and everywhere else for Yu-Gi-Oh products on the 22nd of January.